But welcome everyone, and we're sorry that happened, aren't we all? And we've heard a lot about Zoom bombing, but now we've witnessed it. But I want to thank Barbara St. Clair, Tabitha, Creative Pinellas for all of their amazing work in trying to help artists and people in artist business, because we certainly know how badly you need the help. And we're going to turn it over to Barbara and Tabitha. You'll be in good hands.
Is that my cue?
I think so.
All right. Thank you very much, Ken and Georgianne. We are so pleased and thankful that you are hosting this event. And of course, you know, things happen in life that you don't expect. So we all were reminded, and then we're reminded how resilient we are, because look, we're back, we're moving forward. We didn't let things stop us, although I'm looking at some weird, an interesting name come on board, Tabitha, so be on guard. I'm Barbara St. Clair. I am the CEO of Creative Pinellas. Tabitha is on my team at Creative Pinellas. She's our grant compliance officer. And she and I have been working very closely with Pinellas County to ensure that the money they had for economic support of small businesses in Pinellas County included money going to artists and arts businesses. And we've been working very closely with them to figure out how best to do that. It's been an interesting learning experience for Tabitha and I, working so closely with the government, because they don't have necessarily the same freedoms that we have in addressing our community. So one of the things that I say about this application that we're going to be looking at today is it is the same application if you are a dry cleaner, if you are a bar owner, or if you are an artist. So it may look really like, whose application is that when we open it? And that's part of why we're doing these webinars today, so that we can help everybody feel really comfortable that you understand the application, you understand what's needed. Applications from artists and arts businesses go through the portal that the county has and are first reviewed very quickly by the company that the county hired to do the reviews, but they are all then forwarded to Creative Pinellas. And we are here to help and assist, as well as guide and support. And hello, Galaxy.
Hello. Thank you.
And to make sure that we get this money to everybody who is eligible. So Tabitha is going to walk you through the application from start to finish, help you see where to find it and what to do. We will take questions during, we will take questions after. You can chat them and we'll respond to them. And we are here for as long as you need us to be today. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for coming back. And again, Dunedin Fine Arts Center, thank you for all the great work you do and for helping us connect today with so many wonderful artists in our arts community. Good to see all of you.
Thank you so much, Barbara, and thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure and an honor to be able to help our arts community. So I will be going over the application with you guys in detail. I tried to make it as riveting as possible. And I do get excited when I get to help artists, so if you need me to slow down, please let me know. I know we had a couple people join as we were settling, so if you do have a question, at the bottom of your screen you will see a little icon that's a chat bubble with the word chat underneath it. That's the best place to write questions. It looks like everyone is muted. I'm going to mute you, Miss Galaxy Tab. And then just for now, and then we can kind of engage in a conversation after. Awesome. So I'm going to share my screen. So up first on the Creative Pinellas website, so that's creativepinellas.org/cares grants for artists / this is a great resource if you're looking for the overview of how the CARES funding relates to artists and arts businesses. You will find this is where you can access the application portal. Like Barbara said, everyone goes to the same application portal, but this will get you to where you need to be. So up first, this is the artists and arts businesses that are eligible are the ones who are making $4,250 in revenue, so before expenses in 2019. We'll talk a little bit more once we open the application on the eligibility page. And just to like reinforce that these funds are available for artists of all genres. You can be a home-based artist or arts business. And so we're really just looking that you, through the creation, sale, performance, or practice of your art, you can establish that you have made income as an artist and that you have some type of tax documentation that links to that. And that sounds like a lot of words, but trust me, we will walk through it and the visuals will come. I would also like to preface that here, the Pinellas CARES Grants tab, there is this other option for grant help, which will bring you to this step-by-step process of the application process. So this is exactly what we're going to be talking about today. So don't feel like you have to write a whole bunch of notes. We've already given you all of the tips for your reference later on. So to Mark's point, you can fill out an application now, or if you prefer to sit back and absorb, you can do that and then come back here and find all of this great information in one place. So like I said, this Apply Now button will bring you to this page. This is the portal for participants. I'm assuming, which is never really a great idea to assume, but most of you probably have not started an application just yet. So you will click over to this registration tab. It's a very quick and easy process. You'll put in an email address and your first name and create a password. You'll receive an email to verify that that's an active email, and then you'll be asked to re-log in and you'll be brought to the sign-in page. So that's very quick and easy to get that verified. So once you've done that, you come to the dashboard where you'll see the different options that the county has to offer our community relief from COVID-19. You guys will be falling under this portion. And really all you have to do here is just click this link that says start a new application. Wonderful. So what we've done here is we have a test application so that you can get familiar with how the application looks. This is the general program overview, telling you again just more information on the different opportunities. We will be focusing on the Arts Micro Grant and other available options that differ based on your revenue. It tells you the eligibility here. So again, for those home-based businesses, your physical location, your home address would be in Pinellas County, but all you're gonna do is, I've already engaged with this, but you would click like start. And now we start from the top. So first you're gonna be asked to pick your general business sector and your eligible business type. Really what that means is as an artist or an arts business, you fall under 3 categories. So if you're an art gallery, you would be retail trade. If you're like a school of fine art, you would be under education. But the bulk of us will be falling under this section, artists, performers, museums. This is like a little tip of what you will pick in the next square to the right. That's a rectangle. So when you click here, you'll be looking for these numbers here, the 700. So you have to scroll just a bit if you're going with independent artist or performer. My mouse is a little tricky. Here you go. So again, those numbers do coordinate, and I'll stick with this example. And so now you're going to be making some attestations just to let the county know that you are eligible. So first, that you suffered business interruptions caused by required closures after March 1st that relate to COVID-19, that you suffered economic damages from this business interruption that exceed a grant amount, which, yes, I'm sure that we can all know that that's the case. Up next, this is that you generated at least the $4,250 in revenue, and that has to be shown on the tax form, which we'll get to when we get to the documentation. And you put in that gross receipts from your tax form here. That your address is physically located in Pinellas County, that you were established prior to October 1st, that your business was in operation as of February 29th, that you expect to be fully operated once some of these guidelines have been changed, and that you're not publicly traded, that you're not a nonprofit organization, and that you have no liens or court fees, and lastly, no felonies within the last 2 years. And then you would just hit complete and continue. I also like to point out that you can click save, so if you need to come back to the application, you can save your progress and then come back. So moving forward, this system has built in the W-9. All of us have seen W-9 probably at one point in our life, so don't be intimidated by this format. For most of our artists who are operating with their regular full name, you fill this out accordingly. Your name would be here. If you have formalized your business and you're operating under a different name as an artist or an arts business, that would be what goes into B1. And then if you could put like your artist name underneath it. But this is kind of based on how you already file your taxes, so you will know that difference quite clearly. And then for this, most of us, again, independent artists will probably be following, will be following underneath this individual. So you have that 1040 form, or you have established yourself as an LLC. And another pro tip for this application is that we want to create consistency. That's what, as Barbara mentioned, the company that the county hired will be looking for, and then also additionally Creative Pinellas is looking for. It makes the processing and the audit very streamlined. So you're going to want to keep that consistent. There are some cases where maybe you've moved and things have changed. The reviewers will work with you to further kind of ask you why there's a difference, and we'll document those changes appropriately. So don't look at that as a barrier, but just be aware that we have to kind of have context. Up next in the W-9 portion is this taxpayer identification number. Most of us will be using the Social Security number. If you have an EIN, you are aware, and you should be using that in this section for taxpayer identification number. And again, on your tax form, you will know which one to put, because you'll either have your social or you will have your EIN. And then the last couple portions of the W-9 are written in quite formal language, but they are very straightforward. So the first one being that your taxpayer identification number is correct. So that just means that you properly and appropriately put in your social or your EIN, and you just click it off. Now this section of the subject to back up withholding, we do make this joke throughout this whole process, Barbara and I, that we are not tax experts, but this is another area where if you are subject, you have probably been notified by the IRS. So you should feel pretty confident that if you don't have that information, then you can confidently just check that off. And then up next, that you are a U.S. citizen, you sign off saying that all this information is true and to the best of your ability, and can move on to the next portion, which is the general information tab. So far, not been too bad, just filling in some information. This is also pretty straightforward. You are going to want to put that business address. Again, if you're home-based, it's your house. And this business address should be matching what's in your tax form. This is really helpful because a lot of times the reviewers are verifying your art practice or your operation as an artist by checking out your website. So I highly recommend to put that in there, because again, it's just a good tip to help your review go more smoothly and more quickly. I have seen people put, if you don't have a website, but you do have like a Facebook or an Instagram where you're putting all your work, that's all definitely appropriate, and you can also put that in that space. Then we have your name, your primary phone, your email, business phone if you have it, the date business was established. So again, that's one of those eligibility criteria. So make sure that you're hitting that mark and being clear. And then the Arts Micro Grant is what you would be selecting, because then again, that first initial reviewer knows right away who needs to best help you and process your application. There's some optional demographic information that you can engage with, and other than that, you're going to hit complete and continue. I'm just going to check. So far, no questions in the chat, so I'll keep moving forward. Please send them if you have any. Up next is the use of the grant. So this is for COVID-19 relief. So they're looking to see how you're using the funds. It's not imperative or required that you need these all to be yes, but they are looking for one of these to line up. And just with the way that artists and arts businesses are affected, you will be selecting yes to one of these options. So how will you utilize the awarded grants for payroll, wages to yourself? Will you utilize it for mortgage and rent, to help with vendor payments, health and safety, protective equipment, or other needs? This is a common one, so online platforms to sell art. Again, you don't have to give them additional information, but that's how you engage with this section of the application. Complete and continue. Oops, wait a second. Oh, no, never mind. I thought there was a question. And so this is probably the area where you guys will have the most questions, and where you'll have to think about what kind of documentation you have. I will pass the microphone to Barbara for this portion.
Okay, thank you. Before I move on, any questions, any concerns? It's pretty straightforward. It's, sort of government speak, but it's, once you kind of break through that, it's maybe not how we would say things if we're talking to each other. It's pretty straightforward. So everybody good? All right. So documentation, there's two different parts to, if you had a business license passed but didn't really need it, let me come back to that, because I think I'll be partly answering that in this part about documentation. Do we have to define financial need in terms of an exact amount? No. You're just saying that you were impacted by COVID. We're not asking you to give us receipts. We're not asking you to explain. At one point, there was a thought process, I will share this, that if you're an independent artist and you work at home, did you have to close for COVID? And probably not, because you don't have a retail transactional business. But we use this example of an artist who makes wedding rings primarily. And there stopped being wedding ceremonies March through the summer, so that artist's business went away. So if you, and it's really pretty easy to know that if you're, and that's what we're asking you, that you know. And if someone were to call you up or send in an email and say, explain to me how this impacted, that you could explain it. But we wouldn't, there was a point working with the county where it was like, all right, how much did you lose, and show it and whatever. And then just realize that that was not necessary. So the statement is, yes, what you have to prove is that you earned money in 2019. And then the assumption is you probably didn't earn as much money in 2020 because everything changed for almost everybody. Yeah. So let's start with earning money in 2019. The way you're going to prove that is with your tax form. What we have found, which is really delightful, is that many artists actually have filed a Schedule C business financial and loss, and that makes it easy as toast. But we've also found that some artists file just their personal income tax and then fill in the line that says other income on 1040, and I think it's line 7, and then there's a Schedule 1 that explains how you got that other income. We will accept that also. And that was we were really proud of the county to make that adjustment because and what they started is, you know, if you're a real business, you'll do Schedule C, but not everybody does. And so they were willing to move on that, and we're very pleased with that. So that lets us, as long as you made the $4,250 in 2019 from your art, and it could be a combination of like your art, and then if you're teaching, I say this specifically because some of the people who were on the call, at least early, were teachers at the Dunedin Fine Arts Center. So let's say you made $2,000 selling your art and you made $3,000 teaching at the Dunedin Fine Arts Center. Those two things together get you there. So you will need to provide a tax form for 2019. It is federal dollars, and so it was very clear that it's federal tax dollars, and the expectation of the US Treasury is that you will have paid your taxes in order to access this money. So that's part one, and we found that that's pretty easy for most of our artists because they have filed a Schedule C or a personal income tax and showed the artist the other income, which is how Quicken, if you don't do your taxes through QuickBooks, that's how they would ask you. So you might not even realize you're doing that. But send us your tax form and we'll realize it for you. The next part of the documentation is, how do you prove that you really had a business going and that you made money through your art? So the easy ways are if you have a business tax receipt from the city where you have your home business. And just for the record, business tax receipts generally cost between about $40 and $80. And they basically are a fee that you pay to the city to do business in your home or in a storefront or whatever. Some of the cities are very strict, and even if you, like, let's say you're a performer, you never perform at home, but you know, you leave your house and you go to you know where you're going to work, and they still want you to pay that small fee for the business tax receipt. Others are like, yeah, no, we don't need you to do that. And so it really just depends on the city where you live. We have qualified that you don't have to have a business tax reform receipt every place you perform, but where your physical home business is theoretically located. If you do not have a business tax receipt, but you have a business registration in the Florida SunBiz, we will accept that. If you do not have Florida SunBiz, what we found, for example, that a lot of artists have a resale certificate for sales tax. If you do a lot of festivals, you may have arranged for one of those. We will accept that. So those are pretty standard and typical things that a business will have. Let's say you don't have any of those. We will then ask you, we will see on your application that you don't have any of those. And so then we will ask you for alternative documentation that you have made money as an artist. So for example, you might have your invoices to, let's say you play at the Palm Pavilion. You might have the invoice that you sent to the Palm Pavilion so that they paid you money. You may have a canceled check from the Palm Pavilion. You may have a contract. You may have a credit card statement or a bank statement or a PayPal statement that shows you getting paid. We will look at, and then there was something else. You may have a 1099 that you got at the end of the year. Anything that we can use to establish that you actually made money that as an artist, and that would be money that shows up on your taxes. So I can give you an example where the only example that I can think of was where you would have absolutely no documentation is if you're doing it all cash, in which case that's a, you know, and you haven't, even a receipt book, if you do it with all cash and you kept a receipt book. So we'll work with you, but there has to be some kind of paper trail. And what we found is most people have something. You know, you made the bank deposits, you got the check or a direct ACH deposit from Frenchies or whatever. And so we'll take anything that just shows a record of, I even told somebody we would take pictures of you selling work at an art fair. So we're going to work very hard with you to make sure that we find a way to establish that you were operating in 2019. And operating means making money from the sale, the creation, the performance, or the practice of your art. When you look at this application though, Tabitha, if you would scroll down a bit here so that you can show the place where you upload. So it's going to say proof of legal operation. And if you didn't have any of those documents that the application talked about, which was the BTR or the SunBiz or the resell or the whatever, you're not going to be able to hit that radio button or upload a file. That's okay. You do need to upload your taxes. If you don't have taxes and you send this the application, they'll actually send you to the the small business support department in economic development, and they will try to help you figure out how to get your taxes taken care of if you want to. But if you don't have the proof of legal operation, you can still go ahead and save and complete and continue. And I encourage you to do that, because we will then come in, Creative Pinellas will then come in with our team to help you figure out the alternative means of showing that you have made a living as an artist. And that's really the sort of key to all of this. All of the other stuff, you know, in that beginning of what category you are, that's a little bit, you know, but everything else is pretty straightforward. This is where Creative Pinellas can walk with you hand in hand. To help you put together whatever we need in the portfolio that shows that you made the $4,250. So even if you don't have any documentation, go ahead and complete and continue, and then go to that last section, which is application certification, which Tabitha is going to walk you through real quick.
Thank you, Barbara. Yeah, so this part is, again, that you filled out the application to the best of your ability. It's all accurate and honest. You give your name and sign away that you've finished the application in its entirety and hit complete and submit. So then the process starts and that initial review will happen, and you will be later assigned to us. And like Barbara said, we have been working really diligently and on a very individual basis to get each artist what they need so that their application is complete and as qualified as possible. I will say to make sure that you are checking your emails, because that's where you will get notifications from us that ask you for whatever information that we need to help you complete the application in its entirety. And once it's complete, we recommend it for the next stage of the process. And with that, that's the straightforward application walkthrough. And if you guys have any lingering questions, we would be more than happy to take them. You can feel free to unmute yourself. If I need to, I can also unmute you. Or the chat function also works.
So I have a question. This might have been covered earlier. The application process is just to get it started. Do they determine financial need, or is it for a specific amount of financial assistance?
There's a specific amount of financial assistance based on your income. It's a sliding scale. So the $4,250 to, I forget what the top number gets, $1,000, but we've had artists who getting $3,000 or $4,000, and it goes all the way up to 10. It's not based on financial need, it's based on earnings.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure. If you don't need to register with Sunbiz as a fictitious name, Mark, you can, if you have if you were going to spend the time to do that, you'd be better off to get a business tax receipt. And I'm happy to take offline about why that might be, but you don't need to register with Sunbiz if you haven't already. One of the things that we learned through this process is Creative Pinellas and other organizations like us, so St. Pete Arts Alliance has done and is learning the same thing. We really need to provide more assistance to artists for how to create themselves as a business. There are so many benefits, tax benefits and access to SBA stuff and all sorts of things that once you're as a business become available to you. But to do the Sunbiz is a 3-step process, and so there's no reason to divert energy right now to doing that, unless you want to.
Okay, I got a quick question for you. So if I get I guess an ISBN or EIN number, is that what you're telling me to get?
So let's talk. If you don't mind, tell me what. So.
How do I make money?
No. So you are, what kind of artist are you?
I am a performance artist. I do magic and balloons and entertainment, and most of my entertainment is in restaurants. And then I do a lot of private parties on top of that. So there's not real, since I'm a service, I'm
Right.
not taxable in a sense. I do pay taxes, don't get me wrong, but I'm
Right.
not taxable to.
You don't pay sales
like,
tax.
I don't pay sales tax. That's why I've never
that-
bothered with any of the other stuff for sales tax, because
Right.
I'm not selling anything. I am a tipped employee also and a paid employee. So I'm paid for my services, and then people tip me on top of it. But waiters and waitresses don't get charged for their tips as being, taxable. Taxable in a sales tax manner. That's what I'm trying to say.
Right.
So
So you have certain records right now. Maybe a contract agreement. It might be an email between you and Mrs. Jones. You're going to go.
well, I could bury you in invoices.
I'm sorry?
I could bury you in invoices. Yeah, I got that
Right.
point.
So that's all you need for this.
Okay, so
You don't need all your invoices. Let me try to be clear about something. You do not even need invoices that add up to $4,250 or more. You just need to show us. Basically, what we're looking for is, do you have a history in 2019 of earning money in your profession as a performer? You don't need to prove to us, because it's in your taxes how much you've earned, and whatever is in your taxes is what will be considered in county speak, your gross receipts. In our speak, it'd be what you earned. So if it's not in your income tax, from the county and the government's point of view, it doesn't exist. And I'm not going to say whether that's a good thing or a bad thing.
No, I pay taxes on it, and
Right.
we've done our taxes for 2018. We have not finished our taxes for 2019, and to be honest with you, I don't think we've even filed an extension on that, because we just figured the world's going to end, whatever.
Okay, then what will happen with that is we will send you to.
I can file an extension today. I mean, that would be the easiest way, right?
I think you're too late for an extension. I think today the extension could only be through today.
Okay.
But you could if you can file your taxes before midnight tonight, you'd be good.
Okay.
But what you're raising is not that unusual. And so we would send you to Cynthia Johnson's team at the county, and they will help you with that if you would like that. And you don't have to accept that help, but people do sometimes, for whatever reason, they get behind, for a while on their taxes. And so they will provide you the service to help you with that, if you would like.
On the documentation, so I need one of those, or do I need all four?
Just,
Or we're in the required documentations.
so when you say one or all four,
Yes.
I'm not quite understanding what you're asking me.
Okay, so keep going down. Yeah. These documentations where it's got the radio
Okay, so
button.
from what you said to me, you don't have any of them? And
Well,
that's
I have
okay.
invoices, which is the one
Right,
thing you said I could do.
you don't have the BTR, you don't have the SunBiz, you don't have a certificate from the Department of Health, you don't have a resale certificate for sales tax because you are not selling a product. That is okay. You will send us a few invoices from March, from 2019 that shows that are samples of create a credible story that you actually were earning your living as a performer in 2019. And that's all you need at this point
Okay.
in terms of documentation. But you do need either the 2019 taxes or the 2018 with an extension.
Okay, one more quick question. I don't mean to monopolize. I just want to make sure I'm doing this right because I've been filling out the form while we've been talking. On the amount, is there a cap on the amount that you can ask for, or what?
You're not going to ask for amount. You're going to put in what you earned in 2019 as an artist.
Okay.
And based on what you earned, there is a set amount that will be available to you. I think the chart for that is on our website. Is that right, Tabitha? Yeah, right there.
Okay.
So if you, between 4,250 and 17,000, you're eligible for $1,000. For 17,000.
Well, the micro grants and the sliding scale are two different things.
Yeah, you would be eligible for the sliding scale.
Okay.
Probably. But your tax situation makes that a little ambiguous. Not your documentation situation, but your tax situation.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can provide 2018 taxes, that's for sure, but I know you want 2019. So, okay.
Yeah. But
Okay,
I
thank
would
you.
apply anyway, because we can get you to the people who can help you get caught up and get you some of this money.
Okay. So it's basically like 1/10 of whatever you were making during that time period. Thereabouts.
Probably,
That's what it looked like on
yeah.
the scale there. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Anything else?
I'm not seeing any new questions in the chat right now.
And you can certainly reach out to us if you have questions that you would like,
Oh.
or if you apply, you'll be talking to us most likely anyway.
And then a great email to send us questions if you have any is CARES, CARES @creativepinellas.org. You are so welcome, Dakota and all. Why was the name of the person I need to contact? That email, well, I mean, you can address it to Tabitha if you want, but that's an active email for all of our reviewers to answer your question, Mark.
And if you all would do us a favor, especially since we lost probably half of the audience who signed up, if you would share that this grant is available, that it's really not that complicated to apply for, and encourage your people you know to apply, that would be great.
Hello, can you hear
And
me,
also,
Cheryl? Can you hear me?
yes.
Okay. I do not have a business tax receipt form, but I'm going to be, or any of those little things there, but I'm going to be having a show in a couple of weeks that our Center for Business, for Center for Spiritual Living, it might close down because there's not a big attendance, we don't have the attendance anymore. So anyways, most of the proceeds will go to the church. So do we still have to have this, write out a business form if somebody buys a painting and all that kind of stuff?
I'm not 100% sure what you're asking, but the business tax receipt is something that cities, if you live in a city, they most likely have, it used to be called an occupational license. It's really not associated with this grant. It's a way to establish, it's a very easy way to establish, if you have one, you are considered a business already if you have that, and you don't have to worry about any other types of proof. But it's not a requirement for the application. Your city might require it, but it's not a requirement for the application.
Okay, so I just want to know if you need to have this business tax receipt in general just to be able to go and sell a painting.
Probably.
And exhibits.
Probably.
Even if it's for a church cause.
Well, the church already has one, for sure.
Okay.
The church does.
Okay.
I mean, I can't literally say that for sure, but they have a physical entity, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
The church, yeah. So they're quote unquote. So I can't speak for religion. I don't know the details of what religious institutions are required, but you don't have to, if you're doing business through the church, you don't have to have a business tax receipt because of if the church is selling. But if you're selling something to anybody, if you're doing business and you yourself are doing business in let's say in Dunedin wants artists to have business tax receipts. Not all cities do.
Where do you get them?
At City Hall.
At City Hall, okay.
But as I said, they're not required for this grant. In terms of this grant, they are a way to prove that you are a business. And that's what the grant is trying to do. It's trying to establish that, what your income was, and it's using your income tax to do that. And it's trying to establish that, in fact, you made money with the creation, performance, sale, or practice of your art. And so there's a list of ways we can do that. The business tax receipt is only one of those ways.
Okay, great.
Right.
I think it would be good if you did have a little webinar on why it would be important for artists to become a business.
Ah, yes, thank you. I think that's really true.
Yeah.
That's really true.
I
don't think it's necessarily obvious.
No, it's not obvious at all.
Right.
We do art fairs all over.
I'm sorry, somebody said, does it affect artists? We do art all over, does this impact eligibility? So no. As long as you can show on your income tax that you made money through the practice, sale, performance of your artwork, and as long as you can show that through documentation that you earned money that way, it's actually kind of cool that you do it all over the country.
Hi. Question. So I'm looking, I have a program that I run all my invoices through, and it gives me a rundown of all the invoices I have for each month. And it gives you a short synopsis. It says the event, the times, and it has the amounts put in there. If I gave a screenshot of those as my documentation, would that work?
That would be perfect.
Okay, great. Yay.
And we're not going to come after and say, prove this. There's a lot of good faith built into the program.
I will, Mark. I'll be there.
Damn it, Ken, you were so quiet. I didn't think you were still there.
Awesome.
So if I did the
So,
screenshot, could I do one of each month and that would be totally sufficient? Or do you want just one screenshot?
I think having more than one makes the credibility level increase, but you do not have to document the whole year of 2019 or 2020, but it is important to have that 2019 record.
Cool, thank you.
No problem. Awesome, this is great. Awesome questions, everyone.